Millions of people have switched to Sprint this past year, and they're discovering that the Sprint network is better than ever. To celebrate, we're extending our 50% off promotion, so you don't have to miss out on this amazing deal. Switch to Sprint today and save 50% off most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rate plans for a limited time only. That's right, 50% off. All this on the Sprint network, which is faster, plus more reliable, and has better coverage than ever. Why wouldn't you switch today? We'll even pay your switching fees up to $650 per line via reward card. Learn more about how you can save 50% off most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rate plans. Hurry into a Sprint store or visit sprint.com today.
Offer coverage not available everywhere. Excludes taxes, surcharges, add-on and premium content. Subject to new line port activation fee and credit. See website for eligible plans. Savings until 3/31/2018. After pay full amount. Requires trade-in of current working smartphone. Restrictions apply.
This is the Happy Hour Network.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents. That's audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late-night-parents.
Was the applause right there just all for me? Couldn't have been. This is Ted Hicks. This is Late Night Parents. Happy to be back once again. Coming to you live every Wednesday night. You can expect us with something new, something fresh, something exciting. But I would be remiss if I didn't start off by thanking a few people. But before I even thank those people that partner with us and air our show every week, ways to get in contact with us, Facebook.com, Late Night Parents, Twitter.com, Late Night Parent. You can find me also as The Real Ted Hicks, and our portal, LateNightParents.com. And for those that are lazy, it is LNP.TV. Once again, I want to mention this is Ted Hicks. Happy to be here once again on a Wednesday night, the 16th of March. Happy to be here. But let me get started because we got a full show tonight. Full show. But there's some people that we want to say thank you to that air our show every week. Our home base is HHN, the Happy Hour Network. I want to thank Mr. Val and Mr. Vandenberg for airing the show for the last, we're almost coming up on 18 months. Yeah, I guess so. But that is our home base. Some of our partners that air us always, you can catch us on UNIR1 radio network, TV network, UNIR1.us. I want to thank Mr. Scott Price that plays us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Life Improvement Radio. Mr. Eric Rimmel, that plays us every every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I-95 Sports Network, Bobby Blackjack, that gets us in usually right after this show. Somehow, miraculously, he puts on our recorded show, usually on Wednesdays, 11/12 a.m. DSC Sports, they're always playing us. We can't nail down a specific time, but Mr. Ralph Garcia, I want to say thank you because they power us on the iHeartRadio app. My good friend 9-0, The Underground, want to thank you for playing us on the under.us. I have no idea how this gentleman has 1 million followers. And yes, these are real followers. They play us every week, Thursdays and Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the under.us. Big shout out to my buddy Tiz Shearer in the UK, XRP Radio, xrp.co.uk. Tiz Shearer plays us all the time, usually Tuesdays, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, our time zone, and Fridays at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. The 405radio.com streams us 24/7. Want to thank also Jamagination U Network that plays us on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Want to give a special shout out to FSC Radio, Mr. Raheem White, who, I guess they originate out of Philly. They also stream the show, and I would close with the arenasportsnetwork.com. Mr. Brian Snow plays us every night, 11 p.m. You go to arenasportsnetwork.com, and you hear my wonderful voice going so it's like I have my own late show. Well, it's called Late Night Parents, right? All right, so enough of the ramble. A lot of people to thank. I want to thank our good friends at Verizon Fios, for all the good work that you guys do. I've got the complete package, TV, internet, and phone. I want to thank you guys for partnering up with Late Night Parents, and I will be on a Twitter chat with them on the 30th of March. So big things for Fios, New York. I want to thank you guys. Over the weekend, and I'll make this brief because our first guest is coming up. But over the weekend, I went out and bought a car. A Ford. Well, and for those of you that don't know, I've been driving a Ford since 1998. So when it was found on road dead, yes, I was pushing a Ford. Not the same Ford since 1998, but I got myself a Ford Edge. Really happy with it. No longer driving my Explorer. And I want to thank the good people at Hempstead, Ford, and Lincoln for taking care of me. Special shout out to Dowdell Carter, who handled the entire transaction. So, we got a great show tonight. 2 guests. It's our Women's History Month. We continue. It's Late Night Parents. The title for tonight's show is Primavera. Why? Spring is around the corner. It's about to get sprung. We've just had daylight savings time. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about at work and dealing with daylight savings time and the little computer that would not change its time and what it affected. But before I get started, let me you know what? I'm going to stop because our 2 guests that we have, Miss Rosalyn Ross, she's a friend to the show. We usually talk health, wellness, NBA, binging TV. But I want to talk about her latest commercials. I mean, she's always making it happen. I'm really proud of her. She's going to be on in the next 45 seconds. And at 30 minutes past the hour, we're going to have Miss Pauline Middleton, the author of the book, One Woman, Three Men. Get your minds out the gutter. I mean, I was breaking my neck to get an advanced copy of this book. But we're going to be talking with Miss Middleton about that lifestyle, her novel about modern love and sex. So this is Women's Month. We want to say thank you to everyone that does listen to the show, and especially thank you to our women listeners and the people that hit me up on Twitter and Facebook and everything else. So, without further ado, I'm bringing her on because I don't even have to introduce her. She's, as I said, it's like she's part of Late Night Parents herself. Miss Rosalyn Ross. Ros, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. I just made it home. It was one of those days at work, Roz. I'm telling you, the 9 to 5 spreads to 9 to 7, and in my life as being an IT person, the clock just continues to go. But happy to have you here. So, how are you? How are things? How's life? How's the hubby doing? What's happening with you?
Pretty much, Primavera, I guess. Very happy about these warmer temperatures. We had I think 7 straight days of rain, and I was just like, it may not ever end. And they were saying that the Mississippi River was going to flood, and that's always a big deal around here at that time. Around this time, I don't know if you remember, maybe 3 or 4 years back, the Grizz were going on a pretty late run in the playoffs, and we had flooding that year. I mean, it was just out of control. The river flooded. Yeah, so they were trying to see if that was going to happen again this past week, but we dodged it. So now we're so excited about this sunshine. I'm so excited that this call, my chance to talk to you, coincides with the fairer weather. So I appreciate it.
You're too kind. I'm telling you. But Roz, we love you on the show. We love to have you on as often as possible. I've got to address the elephant in the room, and I got to find out, because there's nothing like, and I don't go to Facebook every day. I don't. But when I open my Facebook feed and I see your smiling face along with a new commercial. This time it's FedEx. What's the deal with that?
It's been, that one was a pretty big score. The process was pretty much the same. My agents work to source opportunities for me, and that one came up, and I auditioned for it, and apparently left a good enough impression to get booked, and it was really fun working with. FedEx actually contracted with an ad agency here to put together a campaign for them, and that was the Meet the Neighbors campaign, really trying to encourage small businesses to, meet their neighbors in Canada and Mexico, and understanding the shipping abilities and opportunities all in North America. So it was cool to work on the campaign, had a chance to get in with Inferno Advertising here, and it all happened in 4 hours.
Really?
I think, actually less than that. Less than that. It was from, I think my call time that day was at 9, and I was done by 11. So, yeah. And actually, I appear at the beginning of the spot and at the end.
Yes.
And I wasn't aware that was going to be how it was going to go. So, I was very excited to see, they let me open and close it. So, but I can't say enough about the trip that this has been, and certainly I'm not, I had a chance to be on Nashville last season, and I've auditioned for a series that is actually going to be shooting here on the $1 Million Quartet, which is about Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. And I never can remember the last two people who came together. The quartet, they ended up recording here, and they all went out to be these amazing recording stars. So I said that to say I'm certainly not at all in a position where I've made it anywhere. But I have to say that this run that I'm having, that's in the very early stages, really is a testament to the fact that, it doesn't matter. If you have something you want to do, you got a dream you want to go after, it's never too late. It really is never too late. And that's the thing you hear a lot of times from people who are at very high levels of success. And you're looking at them saying, well, of course you're saying that because, you know what? You're at a high, right, you made it. But I'll be the first person who hasn't really made it that'll say, but has made some inroads that will say, you know what, if you've got a dream, go ahead and go after it and make it happen. And I'm thankful to have this opportunity.
I want to say this much to you, Roz. If you don't go out there and go for it, then who will?
Exactly. I mean, you have to, and you really have to seek out the opportunities, but as long as you stay ready, which is another thing you hear from these wildly successful people, but as long as you stay ready and put yourself in a position, you can really get some things going and surprise yourself with the type of success that you can have.
True. I got to switch gears really quickly because I got called out last week by a medical doctor that I had on the show, Dr. Reed called me. She called me out. Her and her husband have a gym, and they're putting together some adult classes, some training classes. And I know about a year or so ago I was telling you about my plight at the gym and everything else like that. And I think I was truthful with you, and I said it went south. So she challenged me to come on back. Dr. Michelle Reed has challenged me to come on back to the gym. And she kind of, where I usually put people on, I kind of keep them on edge because I'll try to ask them a funny question. She said, so what class are you going to be involved in? And I said, yoga. And I said, yes. And I'm having my good friend Roslin Ross on next week. Roz, what do 40-year-old guys need to know about yoga?
Well, you need to let your ego go. I mean, and that, honestly, I would say that to anyone at any age who is starting anything, but especially to any guy at any age who is deciding to start yoga. Because, men are, it's not to be sexist or whatever, but we're late night parent, and we know there is traditionally a difference between men and women. And yes, traditionally men are naturally stronger. Women can definitely work themselves out and get to a place where we're good and strong. But but men usually come to yoga practice very strong. And that's cool, except for yoga isn't just about strength. It's also about flexibility and patience and, an opportunity to really let your ego go because somebody will be standing up in front of you, instructing you and trying to tell you to do something. And a few times it will feel like your body just doesn't want to cooperate. And women, we're sort of used to that, but men have a hard time dealing with not being able to do stuff, especially since you're generally strong and you want to come in and you want to be the man everywhere.
Right.
So a lot of guys have that moment like, what the heck is happening to me? So that's what I would say to you is go with an open mind and go really prepared to have your ego challenged. But more importantly, be prepared to be prepared to sacrifice some of your strength in order to find yourself, nice and flexible in some other places. The reality of it is that when you get stronger and you create muscle in the body, and men, again, just have this because of testosterone, muscles get bulky, but when they get bulky, they're actually tightening to that point. And so when you go in and you're looking to stretch, you're trying to reverse the action of the bulk. You won't lose the bulk, but you're trying to lengthen your muscles as opposed to having them all clumped up and piled up in one place. So, you can't get in there and force your way into a forward fold, standing and bending over and being able to touch your toes. It's a thing that just has to naturally, your body has to open up into. And you may not be able to do it the first time, but hang in there, Ted. Just hang in there.
Okay.
And
I'm trying.
I promise you, you'll find, that it can really, that you'll get nice and strong in yoga as well. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to build strength, but like I always say, women come in to yoga and they are usually naturally flexible, and men come in and they're naturally strong, and we both have to be mindful of how the class is going to challenge us. For women, it often challenges our strength. for men and often challenges our flexibility right off the rip. And then we eventually meet in the middle and everybody's happy. But it's just the way it works. Yeah.
All right. I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and it's about the NBA.
All right.
And I just need to know, what are your thoughts about the debacle that's going on in New York? I mean, I know you're in Memphis, but this is, whenever anyone talks about the Knicks and Phil Jackson and Melo, and what's your thoughts on Phil Jackson saying he's willing to coach next season, but home games only? Ludicrous, or what comes to your mind? And
well, what the first thing that came to my mind is apparently exactly the same way Carmelo Anthony felt about it, which is that I'm just not going to accept that. I mean, and you know what? That's a privilege you earn when you've got 10 rings and you are the Zen master and you have this legacy of winning. The privilege you earn to even actually be able to suggest that is an appropriate plan. But there's no way. I just don't see how that works in a real way, and I don't see how it benefits the team.
Right.
That team, what the Knicks desperately need right now is some level of, strength in leadership and consistency in leadership. Two things that apparently were lacking under Derek Fisher. And by the way, his open letter in the Players Tribune, I think I read, didn't really help him make any case. He may not ever get another head coaching job. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know how you can trust a guy like that. So I think franchises, that may be the end of his head coaching career.
I will go out and say on a limb, he won't coach again. He will not coach again.
I agree with that. I don't see how that could happen. And I don't see how Phil Jackson coaching at home games but then leaving the team in someone else's hands. I don't see how that helps you, and I don't see how that happens either.
So my next rapid fire question is, and this was something from a couple of weeks ago. It just seemed they seemed salty. I mean, I know they're old, but they're Hall of Famers. And I asked Danny Thompson this question a few weeks ago. I said, why are all the old school Hall of Fame b-ballers always seem to be hating on our boy Steph Curry? I mean, does it come down to money? Is it because of social media, endorsements? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I hate. It feels very convenient for me to just throw out the H word, right?
Yes.
And especially since we're so tired of using the terminology in our lexicon. But it feels a little bit like hating. I don't know how it could be said any other way. When you hear somebody coming out and saying he's, I don't think Oscar Robertson made this point. This came from another guy, maybe, about Steph ruining the game for young kids who are all going to think, that they can throw up shots like this. I mean, if your kid's trying to play basketball and he doesn't understand the type of gift that is required for him to be able to make some of these long-range shots, that it's not a thing you want to build your game around, because that's not what Steph has built his game around. It's a part of what he can do, but he is ridiculously skilled. He is not. He really isn't very athletic, but he's so skilled, and he has a great first step. And his handles, like the time and the investment he's put into being as good as he is, that should really inspire young kids. And older guys should be inspired by that. Now, I heard somebody mention, it may have been Isaiah Thomas, and I hadn't really considered this earlier, but really the freedom that Steve Kerr has allowed Steph in showing this part of his personality as a player, like the player who can pull up from half court. So actually what we may be seeing is some of these older guys being a little bit jealous of the freedom that Steph is being given, because they weren't given that type of freedom. It was dash to the hole and get your layup. The game was very streamlined into a narrow space where you were judged as a good player. So what we actually may be seeing is older guys saying, you know what, if I had been allowed to do that, I, may have had that same type of success, but they weren't allowed to do that. And they may be jealous, actually, of the freedom that Steph is being given. And that's a shout-out to Steve Kerr trusting him and allowing him to show that range and that personality as a part of his game. And it's working to the Warriors' success.
That is true. Hey, so it's crystal ball time. I'm going to say my crystal ball question for you is, how many years will it take? And this is totally based on your opinion and your thought process. How many years will it take before Becky Hammon gets the nod and is selected as the first ever female head coach? And what do you think a team, the maturity level needs to happen with that specific team? So thoughts are when this will happen. I mean, we kind of know it's going to happen. And what type of team would it require?
Well, it definitely requires a mature bunch. And unfortunately, and this is in a separate sport, but if you read through some of the transcripts and some of the literature out there about this case against the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, the Peyton Manning shenanigans,
yes.
One of the points that was made in that case, in this entire discussion, is that Peyton or someone in the program mouthed off, about the fact that that's why women, shouldn't be allowed in the locker room. That's why women should be separated from from men's programs. So when you hear that type of opinion still being thrown around, it gives me the sense that we're still a little ways off from her getting a head coaching job in the NBA. And one other thing that also is challenging for me as a woman and as a sports lover, particularly around basketball, is how we are trying so hard. Like, every year at WNBA time, we try to make the WNBA feel welcome, and we do all this stuff to ensure that it's just as well beloved as the NBA, which we know that's not true.
That's true.
And oftentimes it's represented by some of the people who have aspirations to go farther than the WNBA. So I wonder if, what happens if she's offered a head coaching job in the WNBA? Ted,
right.
What do you think? Do you think she says, I don't want that because I'd prefer to be the first woman in the NBA as opposed to, you know what I mean? So
Good thought.
Yeah, one thing that I like to, I would like to challenge, as we look at International Women's Month and we say, we're so happy with how far women have come. But the reality of it is that sometimes we're still looking for our validation in arenas where we're still looking for men to validate us in their spaces. And, there may be a perfect space that comes available for her in the WNBA, and I'll just be curious to see if she takes that or if she waits around to see if an opportunity will come up in the NBA. But I just think we're still maybe a little ways off, because even in the NBA, we're not talking about college kids, but we are talking about 20-year-olds in a lot of cases.
Correct.
And guys who probably, new guys coming in who maybe haven't been around women in their programs before. And it's just a touchy situation. I think we got to figure out what kind of parameters to put around it to make sure she can be protected in the environment and be able to still have some success.
Roz, my bonus question for you this week is, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would you tell yourself?
I would just say, I honestly would just say, don't worry. We spend a good amount of our time worrying about stuff that never happens. And I'm sure that's a quote from somebody. I can't think of, maybe Henry David Thoreau. I don't know, but I've seen this quote before, and it is very, very real. The amount of time we waste worrying about things that really don't ever come. And the reality of it is the fact that when things do come, we sort of kick into this place where we have this natural response that helps us take care of the situation, respond accordingly, and then eventually we move forward. I've lost both of my parents. I lost my mom 3 years ago and my dad 10 years ago. And with their losses, not to say that I don't still get sad, because I often do, but those losses put a lot of things in perspective for me. And number one being how much time I wasted being sad over things that were far less painful than those losses. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd say to my young self. That's what I'd say to any actual young person, because I'm old now, but that's what I'd say to any actual young person, especially if you're a woman. Don't get those frown lines because you're so worried, because you're going to be sadder about the frown lines when you're older than you are about the crap that really never even manifested. So, ladies, no frown lines. Just smile through it. And don't worry so much. That's what I would say. That's what I say to anybody.
Gotcha. Roz, it's always wonderful to have you. Tell us the best ways to get in contact with you. Tell us about your writings. I mean, what's next? What's next in the world of Roz?
Next in the world of Roz, I think, is I've actually been really working to manifest this acting career. So, and that has been coming true. I've got a shoot tomorrow, which is a print shoot. It's not acting, it's modeling. I'm going to be playing Tina Turner in a production here in the next, then by May. I think May I'll be playing Tina Turner, so I'll have to keep you posted on how that goes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but you can reach me at r_Trinity on Twitter, and same at Instagram. And even if you want to hop on over to my Snapchat, I'm at the r_Trinity there. And, you can always find my stuff there. I probably write 2 times a week and haven't published in maybe 2 months, but I write every week. I'm working on something now that I think actually I will finish it to completion and publish it, because I got a really strong opinion about these little league football teams, but I'll keep that under wraps and let you know when that comes out. Yeah. Definitely will. But otherwise, Ted, thank you so much for having me on. I love coming on your show. You do a great job, and great job with EJ. We were talking about you on the show. G and I were talking about how good that show was with you two. So good stuff there.
Oh, my goodness. Thanks so much. And I will definitely be listening to Shooting the, what the rest of that word is, that S word. I want to give you a round of applause, Roz. And we love you and all the best. And if there's anything we can do, definitely how to get in contact with us, because that's just how we do. It's
we're
just
family.
Like that. We are family. So thank you so much. And I will be cutting this interview up, and you will get a blast on your Twitter feed. And I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I did. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Talk soon.
And that was Miss Rosalyn Ross. It was great having her. Like I said, it's family. I think we have our next friend in the queue, Miss Pauline Middleton. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from our friends at Audible, and then we're going to bring on Miss Middleton, and we're going to talk about One Woman, Three Men.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late night parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late night parents. That's audibletrial.com/late night parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late night parents.
And we're back. We want to thank our good friends at Audible for always supporting Late Night Parents. So we were grateful to have Roslin Ross just join us for the first part of the show. Now we have our second segment, and I guess this is the saucy part of the show. But our good friend, Pauline Middleton, has been so gracious to join us to talk about her book, One Woman, Three Men. And I just want to read a quick excerpt from it. Can a life and relationships change completely between April and July? It can, as Pauline Middleton shows us in a new romance novel that outlines the evolution of a relationship between one woman and several men. The story is based on Middleton's premise that a modern-day woman actually needs not one man, but 3. 1 for sex, 1 for intellectual stimulation, and 1 to help around the house. With that, it's my pleasure to invite Miss Pauline Middleton on. Pauline, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi. Thanks for having me, Ted.
Oh, please. Thanks for just taking the time out. I know you're very busy. You're everywhere. I see you, digitally, I see you everywhere, but I know you've traveled the States, you traveled in different countries, and you're promoting your book. I want to thank our good friends that were able to connect us. And tell us about the modern love premise. Tell us how you came about. Tell us who you are. Just let our listeners know. I'm going to decrease right now so you can increase, and tell us about One Woman, 3 Men.
Thank you, Ted. It was a model that I invented for my own life some years back when I had a love life that was really, not working out at all. I had been married and had a daughter with a man, and then we divorced. And then I met this other guy, briefly afterwards, and then I found out that he was cheating on me. So, I was looking at my love life, and I was also looking at the love life of my girlfriends. And I was seeing many things that really didn't match, that many people were quite frustrated or unhappy or not having a partner and not happy about that. And I figured, okay, I think I need to try something else. And then I wanted to create a dating profile because that was, the things you did back then. Still do to some extent, even though Tinder has taken over. But when you create a dating profile on a dating site, there are a lot of questions you need to answer about yourself. You also need to tell about what you want and what you don't want and so on. And I found out that, there were many things I wanted. And it helped me to be more concrete in defining myself when I had to fill out all of these things. But I also knew, that you cannot actually go out and ask to be met on all the areas in your life that you want to, because that's not realistic. So I chose the 3 most important areas, and that is I like to talk, I like to discuss things, politics, life, love, etc. I also like to have a varied and fun sex life. And sometimes, people think that that's that's more or less evident that both men and women want that. But it's not all men that want it. And then I live in an old house, and I needed help with some of the things because I'm very good at helping somebody, but I'm not very good at finding out how to solve the practical issues. And then, when I was sitting there looking at these 3 areas, I got the idea, okay, maybe I should get a guy for each area. And then I could find out where things continue to go wrong. And then I had that idea, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I put up a profile saying I'm looking for 3 men, 1 to talk to, 1 for sex, and 1 for practical stuff. So.
Perfect. Well, I do have some questions for you, because I received the soft copy of your book. So I just started to read that and kind of delve into it. So I guess my first question is, how did your friends and family react to the 3 men model in your life?
Yeah, well, in the beginning, I didn't really tell anybody about it because I wasn't quite sure how I would react. It was somewhat of a daring move for me, the background that I have. It's quite ordinary background, but still, I was like, okay, well, saying that I want a guy for sex, that's like saying, okay, sex is important to me, but how will other people look at me? Will they think I'm a cheap girl or some of these other negative words that we use whenever women and sex are associated? Or, what will happen? And when I have more than 1 man, that will also be provocative for a number of people. So I didn't tell anybody. But then I lived with this model for 1.5 years. And, I was divorced. So every second weekend, my daughter was with her dad. And that meant that in that period, I could, experiment as much as I wanted. And then I made a diary of all my experiences. And then some years later, I decided to write a book about it. Because each time I brought up some of my experiences, people were really curious. They really wanted to talk about, is there a different way of living your love life than what I'm actually experiencing now? So it was very, it was very different how I treated it in the beginning and then later on. And then I also would say that when the book was published, I was somewhat worried for my daughter because
right.
she was 13 years old at that time. And I was like thinking, okay, well, I didn't want her to feel she had to have an opinion about it. And I didn't want to actually have her dealing with it at all because it was grown-up issues. So what I did was I told her that I was going to publish a book and I was going to be in the media and so on. And I said, I don't want you to watch any of it or listen to it. And whenever if people contact you and ask about this book, just say, well, it's my mom. She's a bit crazy. She has all these projects, and I guess the book is just one of them. And she did that. And so for the first couple of years after the book came out in Denmark, she never talked with anybody about it. And people respected that as well. And then when she got older, some of her friends thought that it was cool, and some of her friends' moms.
I think Pauline just dropped. We're going to try and get her back on here. Let's see if we can get her back on here. She just mistakenly dropped. So, let's see. Folks, we're going to see. Oh, there she goes.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, now I'm back again.
Yo, that's good. That's good. I was happy. I just wrote down your phone number. I was getting ready to dial you. I just wanted to jump in and say, so your daughter was a teenager. She was around 13.
Yeah.
So the question I was going to say is, or did you not? I was going to say, weren't you worried that she would pay the price for your endeavors? I mean, because at the age of 13, kids can be, preteens or teenagers can be pretty tough.
Sure. I was worried about it, and I also was thinking whether I should maybe publish the book under a synonym.
Yes.
And I was also considering not publishing the book at all. But then I was thinking, well, if I don't thread some new paths, then she might end up having the same love frustrations as I do. Because when I look back from when I was her age, I don't think a whole lot of things have changed the way I would have thought it would have changed. I still think that young people, at least here in Denmark, they when they get to be teenagers and they get to, be interested in the other sex or their own sex, whatever, they get experiences in drunk situations or in parties, or it's not very, how should I say, I don't think there's a whole lot of respect around it. It's still a little shabby and something people don't want to talk about. And,
okay.
So I've also always talked with her about sex whenever she needed to talk about it.
That's good. So my next question for you is, do you recommend this modern love model for women of all ages?
Yes. And at least here in Denmark, it is women of all ages who've taken it on. I just got an email from a woman who's 70 years old, and she just loved the book. And and she was going to use it as inspiration in her couple life. So you can use it directly, and you can also use it indirectly, because the more you can actually let yourself, how should I say, thread new paths or try something else. Let's say you're stuck in the dating rut, or you're like really just not having a very well-functioning love life. Well, it's a good idea to get an inspiration and think things differently, because it frees your energy, it frees your spirit, and it also frees your attitude towards other people. You know, you might be more accommodating, you might be more curious of going out with somebody that is not the normal type you normally go out with. You know, it's very good to think about things in a different way.
So Pauline, you're married now, but I want to ask you, when you were going through this model, I mean, is it the fact that did you dislike monogamy?
No, I think everybody, when they're in love, are quite monogamous. Because, you know, when you're in love with another person, it's this special person that you want to be with. So I don't think that, you know, I think that's very much part of it. And I also live a monogamous relationship now. But I have been very happy about the fact that I have, with this man that I'm married to, Sting, I've been able to talk with him about these things right from the beginning. Because when you've had a 3-men model, there are many more things that you can actually bring up, or you bring them up. You know, I had much more fun dates with guys because it's possible to speak in a more uninhibited way and more tolerant way about these things. And you know, the interesting thing was also when I published my book, I was overwhelmed by how many people contacted me and wanted to tell about their experiences that were a little out of the ordinary or a lot out of the ordinary. Many people had experiences like that. And they asked me for lunch and coffee and so on, and some of them also wanted advice. And that's when I decided to set up my love coaching company, because I was like, oh, there's so many people needing advice, and I have some experiences here that people can use.
So Pauline, I got to ask you, the most important question for me, and you might laugh, is can men use this model too and look for 3 women?
Yes. I had a friend of mine. He was very into my book and thought it was fun. And then he said, you know, at some point in my life, I lived with 3 women. And I said, well, would you like to write a book about it? He said, yeah, I've actually, you know, longed to write a book for years, and I've tried a couple of times. And so he ended up writing a book called 1 Man, 3 Women.
Oh,
but you know what? The way he defined the 3 roles was different, because he defined them as the sexy femme fatale for sex, the soulmate for sex, and the young wild at heart for sex. So, you know, the sex aspect was as part of all 3 roles for him. And that, together with the experiences I had with men, has made me much more aware of how important sex is for men. It's also important for women, but I think it's in different manners. And I think, at least, it was a surprise for me that it was so important for men, because very few men were direct about it. You know, I had to kind of pull it out of them how important it was. But then once they said, yes, it is really this important, then they felt much better about actually, you know, saying, yes, this is important for me. So I also want to contribute. I also want to take initiative. I also want to, you know, it was much better to actually be frank about it, because then you can use it as an active component in your relationship, instead of having it something that you are a little of, you know, holding back or not actually standing by your desire. So that's a thing I definitely got out of the model. You know, it's really good to stand by your desire, whatever it is.
I'm going to look into this book, One Men, 3 Women, because like you said, I want to find out from the author, okay, the sexual component is one thing, but what about, was there anything else? I mean, because it from the description that you just provided, is like men just care about sex and that's it. There's nothing else. And I'd like to think there's something else, but I'm a man, and, you know, I kind of know what rules. My next question for you.
Well, I have one more comment regarding this, if you allow.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think that you can say that there are, for women, there are maybe a number of paths to love, you know, and sex is one of them. Whereas for men, there is one path to love, and it passes through sex. So, I think for men there is also more than just sex. But I think sex is a really important component for men. And I think that's fine. We shouldn't be the same, and we shouldn't be, similar to each other. It's okay to be different among genders and, generations and so on.
So I noticed that you chose the roles of the philosopher, the lover, and the handyman. If you had to choose another role, what would that role be for a man to fill? Uh-oh, did I stump you?
Well, because, it touches upon an area that I have identified with many people who are frustrated with love, is that they expect far too much from a partner. They want all their needs fulfilled by one person. And in a way, that it's not helping you, it's not helping your partner, it's not helping your relationship. It's much better to concentrate on the three most important areas and then to be able to compromise in the rest of the areas. Because, the more you kind of have expectations towards each other, the more you also risk, getting disappointed.
That's fair.
So I can't really define a fourth area. But I would say that for other women, they may define these three roles differently. Let's say you really love taking long hikes. Well, then it would be a partner for that you may be looking for instead of the philosopher or instead of the handyman or whatever. It could also be somebody who's really into sports, or it could be somebody who is into cooking. Any kind of thing that is really important in your life and where you would like a match. That should be the way you define it.
Paul, we're speaking with Pauline Middleton, author of One Woman, Three Men. Pauline, I do have a question, and it's about the green-eyed monster. The green-eyed monster, we like to say, is jealousy. So how does someone deal with jealousy if they are dating more than one person?
Well, that was actually the most often reason for changes in the three positions. Because most of the men that signed up for my model, they wanted it to lead to sex at some point. They were willing to, that we had some exchanges before, and we had some talks, or they helped with practical stuff, but they wanted it to lead to that. And then when they found out that there was somebody else there, and they started comparing themselves in their own mind to whoever was having this position, because they never met each other. But of course, they knew of each other's existence. So I mean, it was difficult. And I've since made a lot of, I've the people I've coached in love, the green-eyed monster is there, and it's very much about strengthening your own base and grounding yourself in yourself, because the green-eyed monster is also a lot of imaginations going on and taking control of you, and it's not reality. It's quite seldom reality is like that. But we can get completely worked up about it if we don't kind of nip it in the bud, like nip it as early as possible and deal with it.
I got a question. What about the moral values? Like, do those matter in modern love in your model?
Well, I think the love life today is not as, how should I say, it's not as following the traditions as it was maybe 20 years ago or 30 or 40 years ago. There's so many things that you can define yourself today. So actually earlier on, you could just follow the traditions and then everything would be all right. It's not so much possible today, because traditions are changing, and some of your friends may live in completely different manners, and people you meet live in different manners, and that means that you really need to ground yourself in your own values and to be able to look yourself in the mirror every day. So I think moral values are are actually even more important today than maybe they have been before, because you don't get them by automatically from society. You need to work on it yourself and define what do you think is appropriate behavior.
Pauline, I got to ask you this question right here. After writing a book like this, how do you what topic would you approach for a follow-up book? Like, I mean, this is kind of like a game changer, and it's also a showstopper. So your follow-up, I would think, would have to be something just as provocative. What's in your queue, or what are some of your thoughts for, what your next book that you're going to write, or is there a next book that you're going to write?
Well, there is, yes, there definitely is. I have a couple of different tracks that I can choose to follow, and I've made notes in both areas. One track is that I will leave the main character of this book, and I will start following her best friend. Her best friend is more sexually explorative. She's more daring. She's more uninhibited. So that can really be, a more erotic novel, but also in the sense that, let's try to redefine things. So that is, that's one track. The other track could be saying, okay, I will continue to follow my main character, and now that she's not in the end, she doesn't have as many men as she does in the beginning. I don't want to give away too much.
Okay.
But how will she live that with the experiences that she has gotten? Does it change the life that she's embarking upon when the book ends? And how does it change it? Because it changed it for me. When I...
And it looks like we just dropped Miss Pauline Middleton again. I did have a follow-up question for her. Hopefully she can just dial right back in. She was discussing the question I had for her is, how do you follow up a book like this, One Woman, Three Men? And hold on, she's back on. Hey, Pauline, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. It's like it gives us 10 minutes or so, and then it just
I know. So
yeah.
you were mentioning the following up, the different tracks you can go. I did want to say, are you currently in the States right now, or are you in Denmark right now?
I'm in Denmark right now, and 1st of April I'll be in Los Angeles, and then I'll have a book tour of a month.
Wonderful. Are you coming to New York?
Yes, I am on the 18th of April and until the 29th.
Okay, definitely. Hey, I wanted to know if you could tell our listeners best ways of getting in contact with you via social media, your coaching, that you also do, best ways to find out about everything about Pauline Middleton.
Yeah, well, I have a Twitter profile, which is called 1W3M, One Woman, Three Men. And then I have a website, which is called modernloveandsex.com. And on this modernloveandsex.com, I have, the more descriptions of my book, and I'm blogging there, and I also have a booking possibility for any coaching that people might be interested in. So modernloveandsex.com.
Perfect. Pauline, want to give you a round of applause?
Ooh, thank you very much.
And I want to thank you for taking the time out tonight, and look forward to following your book tour. And definitely when you do it in New York, I will definitely show up one of those dates, because I want to definitely get your autograph. And just the concept itself, game changing.
Great.
Definitely game changing. So I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Ted, and I'll be in touch when I'm in New York.
Okay, thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
And that was Miss Pauline Middleton, author of One Woman, Three Men. Really happy to have her on the show. Really happy to have Roslin Ross join us at the top of the hour, Pauline Middleton. Once again, Women's History Month. We will be back next week as we celebrate the rich heritage of women and all that they do. So with that, we're getting ready to close out. And we're going to close out with We Reminisce Over You.
I reminisce. Yeah.
Join the millions of people who have switched. The Sprint network is faster, more reliable, with better coverage than ever. To celebrate, we're extending our 50% off promotion so you can save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Can't get enough 50% off? Save 50% again on a deal that's amazing. Get the new Samsung Galaxy S7 when you get another Galaxy S7. Plus, get the newest Galaxy every year with Galaxy Forever, only from Sprint. And to make it easier, we'll even cover your cost to switch, up to $650 per line. This special offer is available for a limited time only, so there's never been a better time to switch. Hurry, visit a Sprint store at sprint.com/GS7 to learn more.
Offer coverage not available everywhere. Excludes taxes, surcharges, add-on, and premium content. Subject to new port activation fee and credit. See website for eligible plans. Savings until 2018. After pay full amount. Requires 24-month leases with new line or eligible upgrade. Service credit is monthly. Early termination of lease service terms apply. Galaxy Forever is after 12 lease payments and does not guarantee price or phone selection. $650 reward card after online registration. Phone turn-in restrictions apply.